Yes, welcome to another sketch with Stanley from Hong Kong. Today I've got a special guest with me that I'd like to introduce you to. May I introduce to you Robert Lockyer. Robert has now spent some time in the East, well, a long time actually, but his roots are from rural Victoria, west of Melbourne on the plains around Ballarat. So Robert, would you like to tell us about your early life in Ballarat? Now you were brought up on a farm, I know that much, and I know that you're an adventurous young person, that once you got into the saddle of a horse there was no stopping you, and that was your ticket to ride, as it were.
I actually come from a little country town called Brokewood, which is just south of Ballarat there, on the Ballarat-Geelong Road. My family originally, my parents and my grandparents, even up to my great-grandparents, were based around Buninyong area. I actually rode a horse when I first started going to school. Would ride a horse from the property to the school.
I believe you didn't stay that long in the Ballarat region. You moved on from there quite early in your
My father and mother were quite elderly, and so when I started primary school, about second or third year in my primary school, the parents sold up the property and moved to Geelong. And historically, Geelong should have been the capital of Victoria. But when they drew the maps, they drew Melbourne closer to Ballarat than Geelong, whereas Geelong is actually closer to Ballarat than Melbourne was, right. And Geelong would have boomed as the capital town or the major city during the gold rush times, but because of the mapping at the time.
So what made Ballarat such a draw card? What made that grow so much?
Well, in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, the gold rush, the Ballarat gold rush,
okay.
Which is drew people from all over the world, people from here in Asia, as well as the US and UK would come to Victoria. Seeking gold.
Okay, so we're talking about the mid 1850s here.
About the 1840s to late 1850s. Yep.
Right. Okay. So Ballarat got that impetus with a huge surge in international population. Was this around the time that the Californian gold rush petered out as well?
I'm not that familiar with the timing of the Californian gold rush, but I think it was actually at the end of the Californian gold rush. As Californian gold rush was starting to fade out, the focus became the Victorian gold rush.
So therefore a lot of people came from America to Ballarat at that time. Correct. Okay, right.
And like my parents, they weren't involved in the gold rush, but being in that area, being in the local area during that time, the gold rush stories were part of our family legacy or our family myth.
Right. Okay.
Family legend, and they would often speak about the Hong Kong gold miners or the Chinese gold miners. How when they come in and mined an area, there was no point mining because they were so thorough. The way they mined.
Yeah. The stories are that they went through all the tailings and they didn't leave a thing behind.
Yes, correct.
So they picked up all the gold that the Irish and the English gold miners were too lazy to look for.
Yeah, so the Irish, the British, and they all did the hard work of dragging the rocks and breaking the rocks up and the actual mining, and then the wise ones would come along and they would repan the tailings and get all the fine gold out. Yes.
Right. So Victoria couldn't hold you for very long. you were on the road again. Where did you head off to next after Victoria?
From being raised and brought up in a country, the city life was not for me at that age, and I ended up going to a place in Queensland near Toowoomba, and my mission or my aim was to be a boundary rider.
Okay.
Actually,
back to the horse riding.
Back on the saddle and ride around people's properties, checking fences and checking their boundaries and making sure everything was intact and all that. Didn't last very long at that.
So there's a bit of Clancy of the overflow in your blood there somewhere.
Maybe the explorer or the adventurer in my blood, but a lot of Australian in my blood, yes.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, back to a coastal town. I was at this time doing some additional studies, and I was volunteering for the Royal Coastal Patrol at that time, and that's actually when not only developed my interest in history, but started to develop an interest in community and or coastal conservation and environmental cleanup sort of thing. Yeah.
So you were doing that sort of coastal cleanup work. Were you working with the Coast Guard or something like that?
With the volunteer, Royal Volunteer Coast Guard and the Coastal Maritime RVCP, Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol.
Okay.
With the Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol, not working, but it was just a volunteer, just a community service thing.
Right.
And but it was by spending the amount of time on the boats and seeing what was actually starting to come and what was on the water at the time. I also was doing scuba diving. At the time I ended up, I think, living around water so long, you end up taking up all aspects of marine life, surfing, swimming, scuba diving.
Surfing, I was going to say surfing.
Yeah. In Victoria, in Geelong, I spent a lot of time with my brother-in-law surfing. He was a very good surfer at Barwon Heads in Victoria.
Okay, Barwon Heads and Torquay and
Torquay, yes,
Lawn.
Torquay, Lawn, Anglesey.
Oh my goodness!
Those Victorian coastal towns were always our family vacation. So come summertime and summer school holidays, we would go to those family coastal towns. Or up near the Grampians, and we'd go down to Apollo Bay. So the surf in Victoria was always very good, very rough.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law was quite a few years older than me. He was my role model in being coastally aware, and taught me how to surf and how to dive, how to snorkel. And even back then in my teenage years taught me to sort of pick up and clean up after myself and after other people on the beaches.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I do now with the passion I have for history and for coastal cleanup now has become an ingrained thing.
A habit and a trait from those years.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Then you went inland though. Tell us about that. I mean, you went so far inland. We're talking thousands of kilometres from the water.
Well, yeah. After graduation, I ended up working on a Department of Immigration and Agricultural Affairs program in the very central part of Australia at Woomera, which is the old rocket base and research base for
That's right, yeah.
the Americans and the British, and the rocket testing place in Australia.
That's where they were testing the A-bomb.
The A-bomb, yep, that was Maralinga, which was just the bottom part of the Woomera protected area.
Yeah, so I believe that miners from the Roxbury Downs mine close by glow in the dark. Is that true?
Well, there's enough lighting and illumination on that mine that I wouldn't be surprised if they glow in the dark.
Yeah.
Woomera is a very, it's 25,000 square kilometres of protected area.
Right.
At the time when I was there was 2,000 people. When I left there was 160 people in that area. But we could see the glow on the horizon from the Roxby Downs mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about night time there?
At night time, yeah, because of the amount of lighting that the mine went 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So it was lit up like daytime there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they glue in the dark.
Right. Well, this is probably unrelated, but I actually know a miner that worked in the Roxbury Downs, and he went from working underground to being a successful stand-up comedian on the circuit in Australia. So
working underground and comedian, I can understand. Yes, I can understand that. Those people have to be able to withstand everything in both industries.
I think his middle name was Fruitcake. Okay, so you did a bit of mining yourself in that area?
As a weekend hobby, like always wanting to be active, but as a weekend hobby we did some, just north of Roxbury Downs is Andamuka. So we did some opal mining at Andamuka.
Okay.
It was more for fun than anything. We got a mining lease, a couple of friends and I got a mining lease, and the coast or the water was too far away to go fishing, so we would drive to Andamuka and
go underground
and start noodling for some opals there.
Right. Is that close to Coober Pedy, the famous opal town in South Australia?
Coober Pedy is north. It's on the road from Port Augusta up through to Alice Springs. Is Coober Pedy
and Darwin, yes, the Stewart Highway. That's
correct. Just south of the South Australia Northern Territory border.
Okay.
Whereas Andamuka is more to the east.
Okay.
It's east of that road, but you access it from the highway and then you turn off at Woomera.
Okay. Well, I know Coober Pedy. It's an amazing experience driving into Coober Pedy, because it's like landing on a lunar surface. There's all these white mounds of earth that are unearthed around each of the mines, and it's really quite a bizarre landscape that you come into in that area, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. Andamuka is very similar to that. There's no trees. It's just a lunar landscape with a lot of holes and a lot of big mullakeeps from the tailings out of the underground mines.
Yes, I'd love to go there and check it out. Yeah. Incidentally, the golf course at Coober Pedy, that has quite a reputation. You can actually go out there and come back and be a few $1,000s richer if you find some opals on the course.
I then set myself a mission of spending 3 months there and learning Mandarin.
Putonghua. So Putonghua, Sikon
Shade Indian. I say I know enough Chinese to get myself into trouble, but not enough to get myself out of trouble. Yes. And,
I know the feeling. I even have that trouble in English still.
True, me too. Yes, very easy to get into trouble, very hard to get back out of trouble.
That's right.
So with the initial plan of going there for 3 months, I ended up staying there for numerous years. I like the country. I like the history in the country. I like the vastness and the difference from the northern part of China to the southern part of China. It's different lifestyles, different cultures, different beliefs, even different language. So there was just a wealth of information and a wealth of opportunities there for me. And with my passion for history, and there was a never-ending source of history interest there.
Good,
Being an English-speaking person at that time in China, it was very easy to find work. I ended up getting involved in setting up one of the first international schools in Shanghai. Yeah. And I worked senior management team there, setting up.
What years are we talking about there?
Oh, this is in the 90s.
90s, okay.
Early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. In the early the international school.
A good decade and a half ago now.
Yeah. The international school was in the early 2000s.
Right.
And then from that, after the international school got set up, I thought I could do my own.
Yeah.
So through some contacts I had at the time, I ended up setting up a language centre.
Is that the one in Ningbo?
That's correct.
Ningbo. So you had different sites for that?
We had numerous sites. We had one located, or the main location was Ningbo in Zhejiang province, Shanghai, which was Shanghai municipal area,
yeah,
and in Shandong, Weihai in Shandong province.
Right.
Actually, all three of them being coastal towns as well.
Really?
Yeah, well, when I was in China, I met my beautiful wife.
Okay.
And she's from far north China. We both worked for the same company. She was based in the Hong Kong office. I was based in the China office. It was
cool.
Pearson Publishing.
Huge Pearson Publishing, yeah.
And so we decided that it was better to have a child here in Hong Kong rather than mainland.
Right.
Just because Western style medical care and
right.
post maternal care and everything like that.
So you're here in Hong Kong. You had a bit of a change in your lifestyle. Something happened to you. That happens to a lot of people when they get to a certain age. Things happen in their life and they turn around and change things significantly. In your case, it was sickness. You were struck with something when you were in China at one stage.
Correct. Since I moved here into Hong Kong, I've been involved with teacher training and teacher development through Pearson and Ministry of Education program for English-speaking teachers or teachers that teach English as a second language in mainland China as well as other countries. I was actually in Tibetan region, which is quite high up in altitude, and from there I flew directly from a very high altitude to a low altitude in Shanghai, and my blood had thinned and the plaque that had built up from years and years of smoking and drinking had dislodged and caused what they call a trans-ischemic attack, TIA.
Yeah.
So my wife and daughter were with me at the time, went unconscious on the floor, raced into the hospital in Shanghai, and the doctor in the hospital said, well, give up smoking and say goodbye to the cigarettes and the drink, or say goodbye to your wife and daughter.
Oh so, my God, yeah.
I came back here to Lamma Island and quit smoking, and more or less quit drinking. I probably have one drink every week, if that, now. So from a heavy smoker to a heavy drinker to nothing.
Okay.
Now
and I believe that giving up the smoking was what led you into your history, your fascination with history, local history.
When I gave up smoking, I was feeling like a cigarette, and my wife said go for a walk. So from then I just started walking and hiking and exploring the island. And since exploring the island, I found Japanese tunnels and World War II caves and World War II artifacts here on the island. Even some Neolithic and some items here on the island that date back thousands of years.
Okay, so you've got Chinese history you're looking at, and also history from the Second World War.
Right. Right. This island's actually amazing. If you look around, you'll be this particular island that we're on now. We've had pirates. We had a pirate cave just here off behind us here.
Right.
The little white building that you can see in the screenshot here now, that's reported to be a Japanese tuberculosis clinic, and some people say it was a serum laboratory for extracting snake venom.
Okay.
Or treating Japanese soldiers that were bitten by
So
snakes.
this is where the suburban myth or the reality about the abundance of snakes on Lamma Island and Lantau Island comes from.
That's
from
correct.
The Second World War.
Well, yeah, there is the urban myth that the Japanese farmed and populated the islands with venomous snakes. I tend to take that with a little bit of grain of salt. Hong Kong Island, where these snakes are quite common, is not that far away. And I think with the amount
But
of...
are some of the snakes here non-indigenous to the area, or are they all indigenous?
I think they're all indigenous to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was led to believe that there were snakes from all over the world that were sort of dumped here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure of that.
That's
but
the
I think
urban
they're
myth.
all,
Okay.
yeah, I think they're all indigenous to Hong Kong. And
But there's enough of them, isn't
yeah,
there?
this island has a high concentration, but that may be because of lack of predators.
Now, apart from the history, you've been taking a very, very active role in the conservation of the coastline and the water, the sea. Would you like to tell us something about that?
Yeah, I think growing up around the water and growing up in a beautiful green country like Australia, we took our environment a little bit for granted. Always being able to go to a beach and go swimming, or always be able to find a national park, or a field, or bush,
and a clean beach,
and a clean beach, and a clean bush, and a clean park.
Yeah.
Now with the density of population that we have here in Hong Kong, I think that we're seeing a lot more trash. Plastic, we've become more reliant on plastic in our life, and plastic floats.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing now is all the litter and the debris and the flotsam and jetsam being washed up on the beach, and
right, okay.
all this marine trash everywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
something that I'm really alarmed at is the medical waste that's been thrown into the sea here. Like hundreds and thousands of syringes and bottles,
medical bottles,
and these are coming from the hospital.
Well, they say they're coming from the hospital. They're saying they're coming from the marine waste.
Is that hospitals in Hong Kong or in China?
Different people have different thoughts.
Right.
I don't know. I've never actually traced where the trash is coming from.
Yeah.
Our currents around Hong Kong could actually lead to them coming down from the Pearl River Delta to be washed up into the area.
Right.
They could also be coming from local hospitals and local clinics. Just recently there was some handed to the government, and they were all local clinics and local doctors.
Oh, that's shocking stuff.
Now, here in Hong Kong, the medication you get from the hospitals and the medication you get from the doctors all come in a plastic bag and plastic floats. Lamma Island.
Well, you've been amazingly successful in motivating groups of people all over Hong Kong to both come here to partake in cleaning up Lamma Island, but also you've initiated groups to form in various parts of Hong Kong, where they're taking it upon themselves to get out there and spend their weekends cleaning the beach and getting amazing tonnages or kilograms of rubbish and nets and what have you that have been in the sea for years. And it's just an amazing thing to see, because that had become sort of one of the facts of Hong Kong, that we had so much rubbish that had littered the beaches and really destroyed their beauty. And you're changing that. That positive moves on your behalf has become infectious with people, and especially with the local Chinese population. That's something that I've really noticed, that the local population are really getting behind you and putting their shoulders to the wheel and making a big difference, and everyone's benefiting by that.
Thanks, Dan. Well, it's not just me. There's an awful lot of organisations here in Hong Kong, and to name them would just take more time than we have to name all the organisations. But now it's actually getting international. This weekend we had some people come from Japan through this first penguin program.
Oh, wow.
And this is a program which Japanese tourists come and help clean up Hong Kong, and about once a month. And but there's local programs here on Lamma Island. There's programs on Lantau. There's national programs throughout China, as well as programs here in Hong Kong itself.
Right.
So
and this is all recent. this is all recent?
It's escalated. I think
Yeah.
there's some organisations that have been around for decades and decades.
Yeah, doing hard work.
Doing hard
Doing
work.
hard work by
Yep.
themselves and striving hard to try and get some recognition.
Correct. And
now
the
it's-
social media and all that now
Yeah.
is actually making it more known to public, and people like you and all the others out there that are actually promoting this is actually getting the word out, and people starting to see that picking up trash is a cool thing to do, rather than before we used to think of picking up someone else's trash was dirty.
No one will notice.
Litter.
No
Yeah.
one will notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But now it's now become quite common for people to go and pick up trash. Even last night, my daughter had a dream about ghost nets. Ghost nets is one of my big passions at the moment.
What are ghost nets?
Ghost nets
they're nets that have been abandoned. Is that right?
Exactly.
Right.
They're fishing nets
Very
that
fine.
have either fallen over the ship or have been caught on a rock or snagged somewhere,
Right.
and the fisherman has just abandoned them, and they either drift in the water or they hook up on a rock, and they can trail for hundreds of feet and hundreds of meters,
Right.
and they catch anything that swims by, and they never get pulled out of the water.
Right.
So just last weekend we pulled out 500 kilograms, half a ton of ghost nets out of one little bay, 150 metres.
They must weigh nothing themselves.
Yeah, the nets themselves weigh nothing. That's why they float and they drift with the water.
So the bulk of them to weigh a lot of weight there must be so much of it in the water.
Correct. The bottom of them, they have little lead sinkers.
Yeah.
The top has a float and the bottom has lead sinkers.
Yeah.
And they open up like a curtain. That's why they're so dangerous.
Yeah.
We've had divers get caught in ghost nets.
Oh my
Turtles,
God.
fish, dolphins, whales
Yeah.
get caught in ghost nets. And they're a life-threatening thing to humans as well as to marine life.
Yeah, well,
But yeah,
clean that up. It's
there's
just magnificent.
a lot of them out there.
Magnificent. Yeah.
What we do is just literally a drop in the ocean. There's everywhere. There's something that's needed everywhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
Around the whole coast.
Yeah. But the difference you've made what's Hong Kong? 2,000 islands.
268 islands.
268. Sorry, I'll think of the Philippines, but 268 islands. Well, that's a hell of a lot of coastline that's been infected by rubbish and plastic and nets and things like that. And you've really made a difference. People have really made a difference now, and one senses, one sees that the battle is being won, and it's being tackled, and it's being won. And I think that for the younger generations leads on to them thinking that they can do something about it. They don't have to ignore it, and that breeds well for the future.
I think this shift people are having in their opinion of cleaning up. Whereas before it was seen as dirty, disgusting, somebody else's job. Now it's starting to be seen as a cool, safe, happy thing that a family can do together, or somebody can do in their own time. We now see people even by themselves take 30 minutes out of the day and just go and pick up a beach all by themselves. So the education's working there. I'm just one person in the 7 million here in Hong Kong that are actually inspired about this.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Look, we'll leave it there, but there's just one other question that I'd like to ask you about. With your revealing of the history of the Japanese occupation here in Hong Kong, particularly on Lamma Island, with the suicide boats and the tunnels, etc., etc. There's two people that recently have risen this as an issue to make the local Chinese aware of, especially the younger Chinese, the younger generation of Chinese, aware of what had happened here during the Second World War and how severe the situation was with under the Japanese occupation and what have you. And both of you have this connection with Ballarat. You've got this connection from that rich volcanic soil of the volcanoes just outside of Ballarat. Is it the spirit of Eureka? Is it that spirit of democracy that was born in Ballarat? That sense of liberty and freedom and things like that? I mean, I've met so many Australians here in Hong Kong, and there's two in particular. There's you, and there's Jade Richards Butler, a noted photographer and filmmaker. What's going on? Two people from the same area that are making these rattling sounds that are bringing history back to the Chinese and to the local people and putting it back on in focus where it should be.
Maybe it's in the water.
It's in the water.
No, I'd like to think that not only us that come from around Ballarat area, but I think all Australians, there's a multiculturalism that's in us. We love our country, we love our own history, and wherever we go, whether it be Hong Kong, China, the US, or any country that we go to, we just immerse ourselves into the environment, we immerse ourselves into the community, and we like to learn, we like to observe. And having known Jade Richard Butler, she's also a big sponge that actually loves her environment and draws everything she can from the environment as well. So yeah, I like to think it's the Australian way.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. I'm sure people have been fascinated to listen to you today. I certainly have been, and I've learned so much. And it's really enriched me and given me a greater understanding of what's going on in Hong Kong and what the future of the place holds in terms of the ecology of the place and about the history of Hong Kong and so forth. Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Stanley.
Cheers. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.